What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman. Coming up on today's show, I want to talk about the possibility of the Vikings maybe trading for Adam Thielen, as a clip went viral of him and J.J. McCarthy working out this past weekend, and Adam Thielen actually posted it on his own Instagram. So give you guys my thoughts there. And then I do want to talk about J.J. McCarthy being locked in as quarterback two. I don't think there's really any reason for Nick Mullins to see the field this season for Minnesota. And then I want to talk about Stephon Gilmore for a little bit, as he is still the top free agent target for the Vikes. And then also a report was thrown out there by Charlie Walters that was suggesting that Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi could be on the hot seat if their first rounders this year don't end up working out. But before we dive into that, guys, if you guys could, make sure you guys are subscribed here to our channel, as it is, the dog days of the NFL offseason. I do always appreciate, you guys tuning in and, chopping it up with me. But if you guys are new and haven't hit that subscribe button yet, we're going to be covering the Vikings, training camp, preseason, regular season, better than anybody. So make sure you guys subscribe and lock us in. But let's talk about Adam Thielen here. I'll just get my take out there right away. Bring him back. I would love for Thielen to be the wide receiver 3 for this unit. And I think Thielen would honestly embrace that type of role, like being that veteran, playing for his hometown team. Like, I could see Thielen being very open to that idea. And, I think it was pretty funny. Like, obviously with where the direction that the Carolina Panthers are heading, where it's like, obviously they were a terrible football team last year, should have had the number 1 overall pick, but of course they, gave that to the Bears, so shout out to them. But, I do think the Panthers are kind of going in this rebuild, situation, and I don't think they're even going to be sniffing the playoffs for the next 2 years. And, Thielen being that veteran receiver, 34 years old, maybe he was kind of sending a message to the Vikings front office by posting that video being like, hey, I understand you guys have question marks at that wide receiver 3 spot. I'm here. Come get me. You guys can come get me for a 6th-round pick or whatever it may be. Obviously, it would be interesting to see how they work out the contract, but the Vikings do have $26 million left in cap space. Now, this would be an awesome move. Like, just my, Vikings fan coming out of me right here. Would this probably be the smartest move for the team moving forward? I don't know. You guys can make arguments on either side of that. But just for the Vikings to possibly get, Adam Thielen to return to Minnesota, who is still over 100 catches, over 1,000 yards this past season, I think it would be awesome. But, we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But for a 6th-round pick, 7th-round pick down the line, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I don't know if the Panthers would want to move off him, as they're probably looking at him, as a guy that could mentor guys in the locker room. They probably see his value, more off the field than on the field. But, Thielen was still productive. I could see Thielen, as we did see in his last couple of years with the Vikings, he was a great red zone threat. So, I could see, that being the case, if he does come back here. But I would absolutely love it if the Vikes could somehow get, Thielen back as wide receiver 3. But you guys let me know down in the comment section. Would you trade a 6th-round pick for Adam Thielen? Now, second story on today's show, I do want to talk about J.J. McCarthy and this kind of talk about him possibly being, quarterback 3 to start the season. And I disagree with that. I think, the Vikings quarterback room, they should announce it right now. It's going to be Sam Darnold quarterback 1, J.J. quarterback 2, Nick Mullins or Jaren Hall. I really don't care as that quarterback 3. Pick, whoever you would like there. But, I do think Darnold, he has earned, the right to be quarterback 1. And I think, Darnold right now, I'd probably call it, he's probably a better quarterback than JJ is at this point in their careers. As, Darnold's been around the NFL. He's 26 years old. He's just more of a, polished quarterback at this point. And, the argument around, J.J. McCarthy possibly being quarterback 3 is, you don't want to throw him into the fire. You don't want to, rush this process. Like if Darnold were, knock on wood, go out, do the injury or whatever it may be. But I understand that. And I've been in the camp where I've been saying, let's sit J.J. all year 1. I don't want him sniffing the field. I would love to see him develop it. And I understand that. But also, it's a big reason why I do think that is because it's Sam Darnold. Now, let's say the Vikings didn't bring Darnold in this offseason. It was just Nick Mullins being that or serving as the bridge quarterback. I would probably be a lot more open to J.J. McCarthy coming in and playing right away. And, if I want to take the kind of counter argument to that, I would be like, well, JJ, he would be playing with Jefferson, Addison, great weapons, great offensive head coach, should have an improved run game, 2 great tackles. Like, you would assume he would be able to perform, decently at least, even though he would be a 21-year-old starter in the NFL. So I think no doubt about it, I would have JJ locked in as quarterback too. And then if something were to happen to Sam Darnold, then you just go right to JJ. I just don't see any reason to roll out, Nick Mullins or Jaren Hall by any means this season. I think it would just be a waste of a game, waste of reps, at that quarterback spot. And if you want to value quarterback reps, just getting that experience as an asset, like, why would you want to waste that on a guy where Nick Mullins, you already know what he is, and Jaren Hall, we saw it last year. He's just not, going to work out as an NFL quarterback. But let's talk about Stephon Gilmore here, and then we'll dive into the KOC, Quasi, possibly hot seat topic. But Stephon Gilmore. So Gilmore by far is my top free agent target left for the Vikes, as they still have $26 million, left to spend in free agency. And, the main argument for this, there's 2 reasons. I think one, just on the field, he is still very productive, had a great year for the Cowboys last season, very smart corner, and I think he would fit in well with what Flores likes to do. He would understand the system, I believe, and just, having that another, intellectual mind of, him and Harrison Smith in that secondary. Like, I think, honestly, I think what we've seen from Metellus, Cam Bynum, like, obviously, give a lot of credit to them, but also having Harrison Smith, that veteran guy, next to him every single day in the locker room, during practices, during workouts, during recovery. Like, I think that helps development a whole lot more than people understand. And then if you would add Stephon Gilmore to the cornerback room, like, then I start thinking about guys like even Byron Murphy. Like, we view him as the veteran of that group, but he's still a younger NFL player. And then I just think about guys like Mekhi Blackman. Maybe he could get something out of Andrew Booth, Kyrie Jackson. Like, these young guys to have Gilmore in there, who they probably look up to him and be like, man, that guy was winning a Defensive Player of the Year at the cornerback position. They would just have some respect for him, and he's obviously a professional out there, and I think he would be a great signing. So maybe you throw him a 1-year, $10 million deal. Maybe that's a little too much, but I would do it. Plus, this defense, if you would bring in Gilmore, the amount of studs you would have. I've shown a graphic where I look at like the top 10 defensive players for the Vikings. If you could then throw Gilmore in there, I think it could be, special stuff. But let's wrap up today's show talking about this Kevin O'Connell, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah hot seat topic. So I got a lot of thoughts on this. So we'll start it here. If the Vikings, let's just say it's a disastrous season, they win 3 games, it's terrible. And then let's just say, J.J. McCarthy and Dallas Turner, for some reason, maybe J.J. gets thrown in there, he looks bad, and it's like, oh, he's a bust. Dallas Turner, nothing. He looks like a bust as well. And then we're looking at it and be like, man, Kwesi really struck out on those guys. We obviously know how bad would be 2021 or whatever the draft class was seen. That was a terrible draft class. And you start looking at, his recent draft picks, his recent free agent signings, and you're like, does this guy deserve to be a GM in the NFL? I would probably be, saying he should get fired. But I do want to make a counter argument to this. You look at the teams around the NFL. The teams that have been most successful as of lately have had the same GM, the same head coach, the same sense of continuity between all 3 levels of, ownership, coaches, players. You look around like the Chiefs, it's always been Reed, their same GM, Spags on defense. And then obviously, like, you got the Niners with Shanahan, like even like the Lions now, like they're going to be running with Spielman and Campbell for the next couple of seasons. Like, I think there is value to, having the same group going, same off season just over and over again. So, like, I can make that argument, even if it does end up being a disaster. Like, clearly I've liked their process throughout this whole thing, and I think it's just going to come down to now, like, these players getting it done. So, could I see Kevin O'Connell on the hot seat after this year? Maybe, but I still think ownership, I think you should give him a 3-year run where it's like you give him, or maybe you just give him all of J.J. McCarthy's rookie contract. And then if he really isn't working out and you're like, we can't extend this guy, he's going to be, out of the league, and maybe the same thing with Dallas Turner, then maybe you pivot and you get a new regime in here. But I would at least give them a 3 to 4 year run where it's just like, don't overreact if there's a couple bad years because, hey, we've talked about it. The Vikings Super Bowl window is not these next 2 years. It is the 3 after that when you're hoping JJ, when he's 23, 24, he takes that next step and he's a borderline, top 10 quarterback and you have a loaded roster around him because he is on his rookie deal. So, I'm not really looking too much into this report that they could be on the hot seat. I'll probably talk about it a little more in depth later this week, so make sure you guys do stay tuned for that. But just want to say thank you guys so much for watching, the shows as of late. I know it's a dog days of the offseason, but still you guys are supporting, commenting, liking the video, like all that. Like, I do really appreciate it. So thank you guys so much. See you guys next time. Skol Vikes.